McCaul, Republican from Austin, of course, the chairman for the House Homeland Security Committee. As always, good to have you here.
Good to be here. Thanks.
What's the current status of ISIS, the Islamic State, and its threat towards the U.S.? Where do things stand right now? Have we made a dent in, combating them?
Well, I think it still remains the #1 threat to the homeland. I think overseas, we've seen more of a policy of containment rather than to defeat and destroy them. We need more of the Sunni Arab countries to step up to the plate with the ground force under U.S. leadership, with special forces of ours embedded with them, and the airstrikes need to tick up. We're not seeing. It's really a stalemate, as General Adorno said as he was getting ready to step down. And so it's a threat over there. We need to stop it over there so it can't get here. But the fact is, it is in the United States. We've arrested over 60 ISIS followers over the last year. That's more than one arrest per week. Last week we arrested 3 here in the United States. And the other phenomenon, Paul, is not just the foreign travel there and back to the region, but also the Internet directives, the radicalization over the Internet.
That's really changed the game.
Completely. Yeah. They're using social media. We never saw bin Laden using social media like this. And now these young, sort of savvy, if you will, ISIS Internet commanders sending directives into the United States to followers to radicalize them. And they're very effective at this. And they're all coming out of Syria, out of Raqqa. They're radicalizing young, predominantly young, disaffected males in the United States to attack military installations. And people ask me what keeps you up at night. Well, we stopped a lot of this stuff. That's the good news. We stopped the 4th of July terror plot in the United States. But it's the one case that you don't know about, that the flags haven't gone up on. And I would argue Chattanooga was that kind of case where we didn't see the flags and warning signs. And then we had, unfortunately, 4 Marines killed and a sailor.
Is the President and the administration right now doing what you think is advisable in the sense of, as you mentioned, ground force coalition is going to be critical? Is the effort there to try to get that done?
No, I don't think we have a coherent strategy in place. When I meet with our foreign partners in Turkey, Jordan, Saudi, they want us to have a strategy first, and it has to include Assad as part of the ultimate solution. Them to put a ground force in there. After all, they are Sunni, and Assad is a Shia. Assad attracts, he's a magnet for a lot of these extremists. And then on the homeland front, I passed a bill out of my committee countering violent extremism. We need to make this more of a focus and priority in the United States. We spend billions of dollars to militarily defeat ISIS and keep them out of this country. We do very little in terms of prevention, in terms of spotting the warning signs, reaching out to the Muslim community so that we can stop these threats before they can kill Americans. And in the last case, unfortunately, military. They have a list of 100 military targets on their list, and we know they're very intent on achieving that goal.
You wrote an op-ed recently. The premise was you were watching the GOP debates and kind of thought back to when you were a young man, seeing the debates during, I guess, the 1980 presidential election. Tell us about this op-ed, because you feel like this is one of the key issues that should be talked about on this campaign.
Well, I think it's become the #1 issue. I hearken back to the first election I got to vote in, and the debates, and Reagan said, "Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?" I think the question today is, are you safer today? And overwhelmingly, most Americans don't believe that we are. And we need to change that foreign policy as well, that I think has made the world a more dangerous place today. And I predict this will be one of the #1, certainly top 3, if not #1 issue going into the presidential election that's out there, because of this radical movement that's global, because of the threats that I see. And when I talk to people across my district, it really is the #1 issue to them.
Iran, the Iranian nuclear deal, I know you're opposed to it. What is the biggest problem dealing with verification? I know there was word that the Iranians themselves would be perhaps looking at one facility in terms of inspections, for example.
I think inspections is a big part of it. There's a secret deal between the IAEA and Iran that we don't have access to that goes to verification. You're dealing with a country that doesn't have a very good track record. They have cheated consistently. We don't have access to military sites. And you're right, in this one case, it's self-verification. I think it's a bit naive. And I think, Senator Menendez, a lead Democrat on foreign affairs in the Senate, came out against this because there's really a bipartisan opposition to it. It does not dismantle their nuclear weapons program. That was the whole goal of the sanctions, was either dismantle or destroy it. It doesn't achieve either one of those, and it lists the sanctions, so we have hundreds of billions of dollars going to the largest state sponsor of terrorism, which concerns me. The Quds Force killed hundreds of Americans on the battlefield with their IEDs. They have a presence in Latin America. Secondly, the ICBM capability is not on the table. Intercontinental ballistic missiles are designed to deliver intercontinental. That means across continents to the United States, to deliver a nuclear warhead. The Ayatollah said that he will ramp up production of that as well. And then finally, when I'm in the Middle East, all the neighbors do not seem to agree with this deal. In fact, all the neighbors are against it because they're concerned about a nuclear arms race in the Middle East that will be sparked by this deal. Can we achieve a deal? I believe we can, but we need a better deal. And I think I'm hopeful that we can, in the Congress, override the president on this, go back to the negotiating table, and negotiate a better deal out of this.
Got a minute left, but I want to ask you about a meeting you had today with Christy Craddock on the Railroad Commission. What was the discussion about? This dealt with, obviously, oil, and share with us what you can.
Well, it's a bill that I and Joe Barton introduced in the Congress to lift the ban on crude oil exports. Why is that important? I think it's good for the Texas economy, good for Texas jobs, but at the same time, it's a good foreign policy. The European Union asked us to lift this ban to get them off the dependence of Russian oil. It will help us geopolitically with respect to Mr. Putin in Russia. It will help Ukraine out. And I think it also, again, Senator Menendez threw this out as an idea with the Iran deal to lift this ban, because if there are more energy contracts with Iran, that's going to lower the price and I think hurt Texas again as well.
Congressman, as always, we appreciate you taking time during the interim here before heading back, I guess, in a couple of weeks when things ramp up again. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
And back with more Capital Tonight after the break.